This is the politics of everything, and I'm your host, Amber Daines. Welcome to the podcast where we want to discuss the politics of everything, from money to motherhood, nutrition to narcissism, startups to secularism, the environment to equality, and much more. Our guests are experts in their field or topic of choice, even if you've not yet heard their name. This is a bipartisan podcast, so while we love exploring varied views and get a buzz from a healthy debate, by no means is this a one-sided forum for any one political view. So please listen up and enjoy the politics of everything. Leadership is a term that has so many connotations, some good, some less so. From power and influence to narcissism and dictatorships. My guest today, Sonia McDonald, has made harnessing the best of leadership into her business. She can often be found delivering insightful personal keynote talks on this subject, or coaching leaders across the country, most likely being summed up with her enthused catch cry of "You rock." As the founder of Leadership HQ, an author, e-magazine creator, and successful coach, Sonia has been named as one of the top 250 influential women across the planet, and is all about shaking up the world of bland, beige leadership. Her own tale is one of rising from the ground up to carve out a surprising new career following some personal setbacks. I'm really intrigued to get inside her head as we discuss the politics of leadership. Welcome, Sonia.
Thank you, amazing Amber. How are you today?
I'm really good. I'm going to go back to your childhood. It sounds a bit like a couch session with your shrink, but I'd often do like to ask my guests a bit about their early childhood, just in terms of their ambitions. So as a young girl, did you dream of becoming something particular, and why?
Such a great question. I think I always wanted to be a teacher. It was something ever since I was a little girl. I loved to help others. I always loved children. I loved to teach. So I think if I reflected back, it was definitely teaching. So I think that's what I wanted to do, but my teachers told me not to do teaching. So
that's terrible.
I know. So I'm thinking what was going on with the education system. But there's a story in my book that I share from when I was little, and I think the universe had this different path for me, because when I was in grade 1, I was 6 years old, grade 1, and I remember standing on this bus. And I could see my mum running up and down this pathway in a panic, and I was waving to her. And I was on the bus going, I wonder why my mum's so upset. Like, why is she so worried? But I wasn't supposed to catch the bus. She was there to pick me up. And I remember taking this bus ride, and then right at the end of the journey, the bus driver goes, "Everyone's gotten off the bus except you. Where were you supposed to be going?" And I went, "No, I just hopped on the bus to go for the ride."
It's incredible. I'm hearing a bit of the kind of inference, I guess, that you were a curious child. You were curious about everything, perhaps, and that explains kind of who you become as an adult.
Yeah, probably. I think that's where my entrepreneurial, let's just take a risk, jump on a bus, see where I go, let's see where this is going to take me. I don't know. My parents just went, "Sonia, you caused us so much trauma." I'm like, "Oh, you poor things." But anyway, but no, I always wanted to be a teacher. So, which I'm doing now, which I am doing now. It's funny how the world works, but now I'm doing it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So once you fast forward a little bit, once you were an adult, what did you do in your early career? What was your kind of first professional gig?
Human resources. So I studied a degree in business and majoring in human resources and psychology. And then I started working in junior HR roles.
And how did you find that? Was that something that once you got there you loved, or you went, "Nah, this is not for me"?
Look, it was a little bit... Oh, boy, what was my memory back then? I probably thought to myself, I don't know about this. It was very administrative. I'm not the best when it comes to detail. Even though human resources is about people, I love connecting with people. I love coaching and teaching and educating people. I love inspiring people. So I probably felt sitting in an office doing a lot of administration work when I first started my career in HR a little bit bewildering. I thought, I don't know if I really want to do this. Once I started climbing the ladder in HR and started getting into more strategic HR roles or getting more into learning and development, I really did start to love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that you're such a people person. In your early career, did you seek out mentors or bosses, even in an informal capacity, who could kind of show you how to be a great leader? Like, where did you get your kind of leadership expose from? Like, what did you do?
I suppose when I was going through my career, I was really blessed. I had a number of people that I worked with that, did I seek them out to be mentors? I think they just took me under their wing kind of naturally. I wish if I could go back in time, I wish that I had the courage to be a little bit more forthright in saying, if I did meet someone or start to connect with someone that I felt, was extraordinary as a leader, that I could get them to coach and mentor me. I think it kind of just happened organically early in my career. And I mean, I think as well, and the other flip side, I worked with some terrible managers that really taught me about what not to do when it came to leadership.
Oh, we've all been there.
We've all been there. I think the whole leadership space, and I never ever thought about myself as a leader back then. I never thought, I'm a leader, or I think that I innately just always really cared about people, and I was always wanting to help them be better and inspire them for greatness. So that was always something intrinsic in me to really help other people rock it. Like if I look back and the feedback I get from people that see where I am now, they all say to me, even from school, which I never saw it, they all went, "Oh, we knew you'd be where you are now. We knew you'd be doing it." And I'm like, really? How come I wasn't aware of this? It wasn't until my life fell apart and I decided that I had to make a different choice in terms of my career and in my life, that the leadership became really apparent to me. And it's really interesting. I mean, I think that happens for a lot of people. They find out who they truly are when something quite devastating or unexpected happens to them. So I think that's when I truly discovered the leadership space.
And we'll get to that now. So you're very open about the fact that where you are today in some ways could look accidental, but I never believe these things are. You went to China with your now former husband, and after that relationship ended, you found yourself alone with a small daughter and obviously in a foreign land. How did that sort of force your hand perhaps to become what you might call an entrepreneur or a leadership expert? What sort of drove you to do that? Obviously necessity helps, but how did you know that you could pursue something from, I guess, the ashes of something which is quite personally devastating and you might not feel strong and all the things we associate with leadership? How did you do that?
I think because that time was completely unexpected. I was really shocked when it all kind of transpired. And I remember, I mean, obviously, as you do, you grieve, and I spent a couple of days curled up in a corner of my apartment, devastated. And then I went back to work. I was really blessed. I was working over in Shanghai, and everyone at work like, "Sonia, you really need to take some time off." I thought, no, I'm gonna push forward. And I knew I couldn't stay in Shanghai as a full-time solo mother. And, in terms of, I was left with very little money. I had no idea what I was going to do, and I knew I had to come back to Australia. So I packed up my bags and moved back to Australia and moved back in with my parents in a really crappy Holden Commodore. And anyway, that was probably the most, oh my gosh, what's going on here? And and it was survival mode, I think, kicked in. I think it was, I've got $2,000 in the bank. I'm living with my parents. I've got this really crappy Holden Commodore. I'm 33 years old. I really need to turn my life around. And I thought, life is always about choices. I thought, look, I could let this event define me, or I can turn my life around. Obviously, I chose the latter. And now I look back and go, why do people sometimes wait for devastating things to happen to take charge of their life? But I started trying to find a job, funnily enough, before I got into this entrepreneurial space. And I started, trying to find a senior human resources role. And I remember this particular time I was shortlisted for the HR director role for Brisbane marketing. And the recruitment consultant, she rings me after several interviews and says, look, they decided to choose the other candidate. And I said, oh, that's really disappointing. And she said, yeah, but the CEO wants to give you feedback. And I said, yeah, I love feedback. Yep. Okay, what's the feedback? And she said, well, he said to tell you the reason why he didn't choose you is because you're an entrepreneur. And I was on the phone. I'm thinking, why wouldn't he choose someone in human resources as an entrepreneur? And I went, but what's an entrepreneur? And I had to Google it. I said, what's this entrepreneur thing? So I thought, I thought, that's interesting. And then I met someone that was looking for a consultant and a coach to work in leadership development. And, I was so desperate to find work that he said to me, do you know much about leadership? Because we're looking for someone to coach and educate engineers and superintendents about leadership. Do you know much about leadership? And I looked at him, I said, I know so much about leadership. And I'm thinking, don't ask me any questions. Please don't.
No detail.
Please don't. And then he didn't, thank goodness. I was faking it, but I wasn't faking that I was going to be a brain surgeon. So I got the job, and then I just went home and bought every single book I could on leadership, and I just read and watched videos, and that's how it started. I started working for someone else in the leadership space and thought, you know what, I wonder if I could start my own company and rock this leadership space because I love it so much. I just fell completely in love with it and thought, I wonder if I can take this passion and this talent that I have, and saw that the world needed more great leaders. I thought, well, this is the sweet spot here. I wonder if I can turn these passions and talent into a company.
Absolutely. So you work with a whole range of different people these days, I imagine. So how is your approach different to other coaches? Like, who do you work with? How do you work? And what makes you different? Because a lot of people claim to be experts in this space.
Oh, yeah, that's such a great question. I get asked that a lot. I think what makes us different, and I'm a great believer in there's no competitors. Like, even though there's lots of people playing in the space, it's like there's lots of doctors or lots of accountants or, lots of IT experts and things. There's lots of people that have got skills in the leadership space. Absolutely. There's lots of leadership coaches, lots of leadership consultants. I think what makes us truly different, and this is something I've been really focused on, that's why I never spent any energy on what others are doing in my space, is just focusing on what makes us unique, how we can make a difference to organizations and leaders. I think that it's because we're really authentic. I think it's because, I'm all about leadership as an attitude. I'm all about them. I'm all about making them rock. I'm all about helping them with their self-awareness around leadership and bringing out the best in them, being the best for them so I can inspire them for greatness and help them shine. And I think the last, we've had the company now for nearly a decade. I think that's been our differentiator, and that's why we stand out, is because of the passion and also the fact that we really, really care about others and helping them, be the best they can be. And I think that's why Leadership HQ has grown and really stood out in the market as, the leadership experts here.
Exactly. You're living and breathing it. So this is a rather big question, and I'm hoping you've had some time to consider it, because I can imagine there's so many different elements to this. But I'd love to ask you, what makes a great leader, and can anyone really learn this? Is it in your DNA, or can you learn it?
Wow. Yes, they are big. I think first and foremost, what makes a great leader, and people do see leadership differently. I think at the end of the day, what makes a great leader is just essentially knowing who you are, being really aware of who you are, and wanting to make a difference to others. Leadership's about others. It's that whole thing that I talk about a lot around leadership is about, if you can help someone and dream more, inspire them to do more and be more, which is a great quote. That's leadership. It's not about role or title. It's about how you can help someone become the best versions of themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I definitely think leadership can be learnt. I've seen it. I've coached it. I've worked with it. We've researched it. I have a lot of people. It's a really interesting conversation around no leaders are born, no leaders are made, or no, they're both. Or, sometimes you can meet people that could have characteristics that you could attribute to great leaders or leaders. But I absolutely think that leaders can be made. You can definitely grow and build leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's a process. I know myself, I feel like I've already had a lot of exposure to, like you say, good and bad leaders. And as a kid, I was always told, you're a natural leader and so forth. But I certainly felt like it was a muscle I needed to use, and I needed to learn and I need to understand how others are also responding to me. So I think sometimes when you think about traditional leadership, and that's why in my introduction I talked about having positive and negative connotations, it all depends on the perception of what you need to do as a leader. And I remember my early career, just leaders being very dictatorial in the workplace, and you don't leave until the boss leaves, and all these protocols which really didn't necessarily teach me anything except that, this is not great. Why would I want to be the boss? It didn't really encourage me to want to be a leader. But because as we've evolved and we understand more about leadership is so many things, it's probably encouraged me to kind of move towards it rather than run away from it, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what do you think makes a great leader? What are your thoughts on what is great leadership?
Oh, you're interviewing me, Sonia. This is interesting. For me personally, look, the word authentic does get bandied around a lot, and I know you've used it as well. But I think someone who is actually a great listener, though, to me makes a great leader, and that there's authenticity in that too, but really being curious, really being open to solutions, not being hierarchical. I think that's the first thing that I've learned about the people that I admire, that I've worked with in my business as well, that have been amazing. It's the way they treat others, no matter who they are in the organisation, particularly if they're in a big corporate, having some humility, having a bit of vulnerability, being able to know when they need to really lead and when they need to listen. I think they're the things that I really value in a leader. So that's probably a good summary.
That's awesome. I love that. I agree. Listening, I think that's so important. So important.
Rather than thinking you have to have all the answers. I think there's that time when, probably our dads were in business and it was kind of like that. You kind of came and you listened dutifully. And as, CEOs or leaders in business, they would sort of have to just come in and tell the people what to do rather than being collaborative.
Yeah, and I think that's the way leadership, I think that's the way we're going now. I think even as a society, that's one of my value sets is collaboration. Collaboration's key. It's, you don't know all the answers, let's work together. How can we help each other? That's so important now. I agree, Amber.
So your book, Leadership Attitude, really shares the idea that you have that mindset and that attitude of leadership. You can shape your career or perhaps break your career if you don't embrace it. In your experience, what is that really all about? And do you have some examples of leaders, good or bad, that you can maybe share even on a no-names basis on how they've maybe developed as a leader in the work you've done, and perhaps, why this book kind of sums all this up?
I think the reason why the book Leadership Attitudes become so popular and people love the content or the message around leadership attitude, it is about mindset. Leadership is about behaviour, and it's ultimately about attitude, and it's your attitude, not your aptitude, that determines your altitude. That's one of my
I love it. The 3 A's.
That's another one of my favourite quotes. I think gosh, there's been so many examples. And the thing is with attitude, you set your attitude. And once people can see the leadership space and they can see themselves as leaders, and then they start to go, you know what, I've got this, and I'm gonna really focus my mindset on attitude to be a leader and be that best version of a leader I can be. Just seeing people transform makes my heart sing, and I've seen the difference that it makes. And there's been so many leaders that we've worked with that have really got it, have really gone, you know what, I am a leader. I never saw myself as a leader. And even that shift in mindset and attitude, and when they've gone to work and seeing that confidence and courage that they've taken on board by getting that attitude and learning how to be great leaders, it's just the results and the success that I've seen and heard has just been phenomenal. because they want to embrace it. They want to embrace it around the successes and, you know, the stuff ups when it comes to being a leader.
I was going to say, what's some of the stuff the bad stuff you have to deal with as a leader that they've had to maybe navigate, and how's this attitude, this leadership attitude, helped them in that way? Like, think of maybe in your mind a specific example that you could share.
I'm just trying to think of the best example. I think sometimes I've found when people have got really aware of leadership and also had that attitude of, you know, I want to be a great leader and be the best version of me, and being that listener and being the reflector. And I think that they've started to see other leaders around them that aren't so great. So they've become really aware of that, not only their behaviour and their words and their actions, that they've come to me and gone, hang on a second, like my CEO at work, now I'm becoming a lot more aware of leadership. He's not demonstrating leadership behaviours. He's not demonstrating leadership attitude. He's not leading by example. Like, his words are saying one thing, his actions are saying the other. We now, you know, I don't trust him as much as I do. Like, there's one, and it happened a few years ago. A leader I was working with, this exact thing happened. He became so much more aware of, you know, not only great leadership but bad leadership, and he was getting a sense of, hang on a second, I'm actually working in a company where the CEO is actually demonstrating poor leadership, and
Yes.
and he ended up leaving because of it. He was like, I've read your book. I'm in, you know, you're coaching me. I've now decided I don't want to be in this company because and I'm like, oh no. I mean, that does happen, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, that's a pretty powerful story, to be honest. It's amazing that someone's that bravery, if you like, to do that, and the courage to just stand by your convictions, really.
Yeah, and I think in life you have to. I think that life's so short that if there's something you don't feel congruent with, if you're doing something or you're seeing something, like I always say to people, look, the standard you walk past is the standard you accept. You know, and if you're seeing poor behaviour or poor leadership, you've got choices. You either
Absolutely.
yeah. you say something, you change it, or you leave. Like, don't just let it happen. So, I mean, with all the stuff that's happening in the across the globe with, you know, cyberbullying and Me Too and things like that, people are becoming a lot more vocal around, we're not going to accept this behaviour, and don't accept it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So where are you hoping to take Leadership HQ? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I mean, it's a bit of a crystal ball question, I know, and the world's moving so quickly, who knows? But I'd love to sort of just see what you have next up your sleeve.
Wow, man, I have so many dreams for Leadership HQ. I think ultimately my goal with Leadership HQ is to have a headquarters, a leadership headquarters, a place where people could come and they could join, like, as a monthly fee, and you could come to this leadership hub, and it had a library and it had workshops, you could go and book a coach, you could come and sit and collaborate, you could come and learn about leadership, you could listen to podcasts. That was my dream. That's always been my dream. However, I think the way I'm seeing even the website of Leadership HQ transform, it's becoming that online. I think we've just launched the online Leadership Academy. We've got which has, you know, private groups, and it has toolkits and articles and resources and things. So we've got the online Leadership Academy, and we've also got the online resource centre. We've got the blog. I've got the events. So I'm it is becoming a leadership headquarters online versus the physical coming, you know, where you attend a, you know, amazing warehouse, which would be my ultimate dream, where you actually physically go and connect with people. But we're actually now transforming the website and the company as an online headquarters. So I'm really excited about where that's heading. So you never know. In 5 years' time, Amber, you could see get an invitation to the
I hope so.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I have two questions I ask all my guests, and I'm obviously going to put these to you now. The first one is, do you have any special mentors, inspirational people that have guided you on this journey? If so, who are they? And obviously don't have to be well-known names. And what have they taught you about life? It might be one person, it might be two.
There's probably two that spring to mind. they're very different. One is, his name is Ted. For some reason, and he saw me speak. He is an amazing mentor. He saw me speak several years ago at an event, and he came up to me after this event and he said, Sonia, I'm actually a consultant with the company that you just presented to. And I said, oh, great. And he said, can you and I have a coffee, because I'd really like to just, have a chat to you. And I said, yeah, sure, that sounds great. So I met with him for coffee and he said, he goes, do you know how remarkable you are? Like, I was sitting in that room seeing you speak and present, and I have been doing this for a very long time. And he goes, do you see how remarkable you are? And I'm looking at him going, oh my gosh, like, it was lovely. Like, I was like, oh gosh, that's such lovely feedback. Thank you. He said, I would love to mentor you. I used to be a CEO of a company. I've grown and sold businesses. I would love to mentor you. So he's still my mentor. We're catching up for lunch tomorrow. For some reason, he has this innate ability. This week, he sends me an email going, I'm just checking in on you. Is everything okay?
Wow.
I'm like, your timing couldn't be better. So he said, let me take you out to lunch tomorrow. So, yeah, he's great. My other mentor, Beata, is in Melbourne. She is a phenomenal entrepreneur. She has got the biggest, kindest heart. I met her at a Women in Focus, the Commonwealth Bank Women in Focus forum and the events they have. I met her at an event and her and I connected. She's been a beautiful mentor for me. She's got just the most kindest, she's just such a compassionate, beautiful woman, and she's constantly there for me. Like, if I had to ring her at 5 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday, which I have done, and she's like, Sonia, I'm here for you. And we've just, our values aligned and our philosophy around leadership and compassion and kindness have aligned. So she's been an incredible mentor.
That's incredible.
Yeah, can I tell you, that's the number one thing that makes a difference. Everyone out there, please get a mentor.
I totally agree. I wish someone had told me that early on in my career. And I often, when I mentor others or they ask me their advice, even, people might be different stages of their career or their business, I just say find people and don't be afraid to ask. I think that's where we started the conversation. It's like, I think when you're younger, you think, I'm not going to ask this person. They're going to say no. But I don't think anyone's ever said no when I've asked them for some time or, even if it's not a formal mentoring relationship, just an opportunity to sit with them and get their feedback on a few ideas you might have. And I think it can really change how you feel about your leadership journey as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it does. And don't be afraid to ask people if you meet someone.
Totally.
Yeah.
Ask, you never know. So finally, what's the best tip you have for business people out there keen to become better at the politics of leadership? What would be your final take-out tip?
Oh, gosh, what would be my final take-up tip? Courage. Just do it. Just courage. Just if there's something that, if you've got a dream or a passion or something inside of you that you really want, it could be in your career, it could be, you want to build something, a new company or, a business or anything that you have in you that you have this passion or fire for, just have the courage to do it and believe in yourself, totally believe in yourself. And when you get knocks, you just go, you know what? I believe in myself. I'm going to learn from this, and you pick yourself back up. Because I'm telling you now, you will get stronger and stronger and stronger. It's all about courage.
Absolutely. Well, it's been fantastic to have you on the show today. If you do want to connect further with Sonia McDonald, her details will be on our show notes. It's been wonderful to have you all listening today. And until next time, do take care. Thanks for listening today. If you've enjoyed the politics of everything, we thrive on feedback. So please add a short review and share the podcast with your network, your friends and family. I'm also always on the hunt for fabulous new guests. So if you've got a view to share and an idea how to get our listeners excited, please email me at amber@bespokecomms, that's BESPOKECOMMS.com.au, and we'll be sure to get back to you. Until next time.